So here's what's freaking weird about everything that we just went through. There seems to be this general rule that native speakers of English follow, such that sometimes it's okay to contract want to wanna, and other times they just don't do that. Right? So, in the example we looked at, most of us, if I asked you, oh, hey, who do you want to see? You're cool. But if I try and ask, well, who do you want to see Sarah? Ugh, it just sounds like that's not that you can't do that. Same thing. If we're trying to decide whether we're going to read a book by Jonathan Franzen or one by Barbara Kingsolver, I might ask you, "Oh, who do you want to read?" And most of us are like, "Yeah, that's a fine question." But if I ask you instead, "Well, who do you want to read Treasure Island?" Like, if I'm trying to ask you, like, well, which one of us is going to read aloud this book, Treasure Island, to the group? Again, we're like, that's not, you can't contract it there. You've got to say, who do you want to read Treasure Island to all of us? Uh, Now, what's weird about this is that this seems to be a general rule that all of us follow. Will contract want to or wanna in the first cases, but not in the second cases. But I'm guessing that almost all of you, until I pointed this out to you, had no idea that everyone was following this rule. So then the question is, well, how do we learn this rule? How do we pick up on this rule? And it's especially weird because number one, as I just demonstrated, the reason why we follow this rule seems to be because there's this hidden structure to language that you're just not going to pick up if all you're paying attention to is the order of the words coming out of my mouth or printed on a page. Moreover, since everyone follows this, we have what's called a poverty of the stimulus. We just don't get stimulated with lots of people either breaking the rule or not breaking the rule. And moreover, no one goes around and tells us, oh, you may contract want to wanna in these cases, but not these cases. And we don't have people going around and saying, no, that's bad of you if you contract it in some of the cases that we don't contract it in. And yet we all seem to pick up on this regularity. So what gives? How are we doing that? Well, here's the hypothesis. It seems like this ability to create this invisible structure in the words that we hear, that is just built in to our human minds. And so the idea is that we grow languages the way we grow an arm. Right? In general, most of us, we grow arms such that we have hands with 5 fingers on the end of them. And you would never ask, well, how do we know to grow 5 fingers instead of four? That's just not how it works. It just so happens that if you're born a human, in general, you're going to grow an arm with 5 fingers. So the idea is the same with language. If you're born with a human brain and a human mind, in general, you are going to respond to languages and words spoken in your environment such that you're going to grow a language and put together those words in structures that have these invisible parts that are in your mind, even though those structures are not out there in the sounds and the writing that you're sensing. And so this is the idea that David Adger is going to show you plays out when children grow up speaking their own special kind of sign language and then get together with other folks who are speaking their own special kinds of sign languages. And you can see this process whereby their human minds impose structure that's not there in just the signs that they're making. And it's that kind of thing that you and I as humans seem really good at doing, but that if you look at that video of Kanzi I showed you, apes like Kanzi cannot do. They can get symbols, they can get the idea that a particular symbol or a particular word means one thing, but they don't seem to be able to structure those words together in these complex patterns the way you and I do. Excuse me.